the alley, the person in charge, and the girl who would not let go. Rain was coming down hard. It was falling in big drops that went sideways. This made the city look weird, with neon lights reflecting and street lights shaking back and forth. It was the kind of storm that made people walk fast. They put their heads down, raised their shoulders, like they were trying to ignore the world outside their umbrellas. The rain was so bad that people just wanted to get where they were going. They did not want to deal with the storm. The city was a mess because of the rain. People just kept moving, trying to stay dry under their umbrellas. Mark Hale did not pretend. Mark Hale had not learned how to do that. He drove with both hands on the wheel, really steady and careful. It was like he thought being in control of the car could make up for all the things in his life that he had no control over. The man was 34 years old. He looked like someone you would see on a billboard. He had a strong jaw, a nice coat that fit him well, and a fancy watch. His eyes told a different story. They looked really tired. It was the kind of tired that you cannot hide, no matter how nice your clothes are. In the back seat, Liam, who was 6 years old, held a small green dinosaur plush against his chest. The sound of the rain on the windows was really soothing. Liam always tried to stay awake for long as he could, but the rain was helping him to feel sleepy. The rain was coming down gently on the windows of the car. It was a nice sound. Liam was getting sleepier and sleepier because of this sound. The small green dinosaur plush was still held tightly against his chest. Mark looked into the mirror. Liam's eyelashes moved fast, then they went down. Mark made the heater a little hotter. It was like he was saying to Liam, "I know I cannot make everything okay. I can at least keep the room warm." For the Facebook guy, no for Liam. Mark was trying to take care of Liam to keep Liam warm. The stoplight ahead turned red near a corner store with a buzzing neon sign. This sign was really something. It looked like it was alive, but at the time it looked like it was dying. Mark eased the car to a stop. He exhaled slowly. The stoplight was still red. The corner store was still there, with that weird buzzing neon sign. Mark just sat there, waiting for the stoplight to turn green again, looking at the store and the sign. That is when something tapped the passenger side window. Once, then again, fast, urgent, panicked. Mark leaned forward. He was trying to see through the rain. There was a figure standing just beyond the glass. The rain had soaked her much that she looked like she had just been pulled out of a river. Mark kept looking at the figure. The rain was coming down really hard. The small figure was completely drenched. He lowered the window halfway. The cold air that smelled like rain came rushing in. A little girl looked up at him with eyes that were really wide and shaking. Her hair was stuck to her face. The dress she was wearing was clinging to her arms. It was really thin. The little girl looked like she had been crying for a long time. It seemed like she had cried much, that she did not have any tears left. But she was still very scared. The woman said, "Sir." She could barely get the words out. Her voice was shaking badly. She told him that her mom is not able to walk. Mark's heart fell all the way down into his stomach. It was like Mark's heart was sinking. It made Mark feel really scared. Mark thought about what was happening. Mark did not like it one bit. Mark's heart was still falling. It seemed like Mark's heart was going to drop out of Mark's body. "Hey, slow down," he said in a voice, looking around at the street. "Where is your dad now? I do not see any adults. Where are the adults that are supposed to be with you?" She shook her head hard. No one is helping her. "Please help." The woman fell. The woman cannot get up. Please help the woman. Mark's instincts told him something was off. He thought about all the stories he had read, all the warnings he had heard. He remembered the talks he had with people in charge about things that could go wrong and the problems that could happen. Then, the girl grabbed the window really tightly. It looked like she was really struggling to hold on. That did not seem fake. The girl grabbed the edge of the window with a grip that was too desperate to be staged, just like Mark had seen in life. She said please again. It did not sound like she was asking for something. The word please sounded like the thing that could save her now. The word please was all she had left. Mark opened his door. The rain poured down on him away, and his coat got all wet. He took a step out into the rain, holding his hands up in a way. He said, "Okay, I am coming. Show me what you want Mark to see." The girl's eyes flashed with relief. She turned around, ran quickly towards the small alley next to the corner store. The girl did not stop running until she was inside the alley. The alley was very narrow. It was beside the corner store, where the girl liked to buy things. The girl felt safe in the alley because it was small and not many people went there. The girl was still thinking about the corner store and the alley. Mark stopped for a moment to look at the back seat. The thing that caught his attention was Liam. Liam had woke up. He looked really scared. His eyes were wide. His face was pressed up against the window. Mark saw that Liam was looking out the window with a face. Liam was really scared. Mark could see it. Mark looked at Liam. Then he looked away. Mark tapped the glass lightly. He said, "Stay, buddy. The doors are locked. I will be back." Liam nodded. He was being very brave, but only just. Mark followed the girl into the alley. He wanted to see where the girl was going. The girl walked fast into the alley. Mark had to walk to keep up with the girl. The alley was very dark. Mark did not like it. Mark was still following the girl. The world was really small now. It was wet bricks and dark alleys, with big trash cans. Water was coming down from the fire escapes. There was one light on above a metal door. It was flashing on and off like it was very tired and wanted to stop. The smell of concrete was everywhere. It was very strong. The girl pointed deeper into the darkness. She said, "There is something there." And then she said, "There." The sky got really bright when lightning flashed across it, and for a moment the whole alley was lit up. It was like someone took a picture. The woman was sitting against the wall. Her head was down. One arm was just hanging there. The water was running down her face. It looked like the sky was crying for the woman. The woman's hair was dark, and it was all tangled up. It was stuck to her forehead. The woman's skin looked really pale. Her lips were a little bit open. The woman sat there. The rain kept falling on her face. The woman's hair was still stuck to her forehead. Her skin was still pale. The woman was still sitting there, getting wet from the rain. The girl shouted, "Mum." ran to her mother, grabbing her mother's hand. Mark got down low to the ground, was really careful. He was totally alert. Mark checked to see if the woman was breathing. Her breaths were very shallow. They were too shallow. Mark touched the woman's wrist to see how she was doing. The woman had a pulse. It was very weak. He gently moved the hair away from her face, and then he just stopped moving. The man knew the woman. He did not know her personally. He was familiar with her voice, her eyes, and her defiance. He knew the way she sounded, the way she looked, and the way she stood up for what she believed in her defiance. Ariana Black. She stood in front of cameras at a press conference a few hours before. At the press conference, she called out Mark Hale by name. She was criticizing Mark Hale's company and their labor policies. She said Mark Hale's company was treating workers badly. Mark Hale's company was being really unfair to workers. She was very calm when she said this. She was also very clear and strong. Mark was really upset at that time. He felt the need to defend himself. Mark had said to his public relations team that she was only looking out for herself, a person who wanted to be in the spotlight. Mark thought she was trying to get attention from people. The woman was lying in an alley, and she was not awake. A little girl was standing near her. This little girl looked very sad. She looked like she had a lot of problems. The little girl was paying attention to the woman. The girl pulled on Mark's sleeve. She was crying really hard. She said, "Please do not let her die." Those words sliced through him. Mark did not say a word. He just put his arms under Ariana's shoulders and knees. Picked her up really carefully, like Ariana was something that would break easily. Mark was being very gentle with Ariana. She was lighter than he thought she would be. This was not a kind of light. It was not like she was light because she was really fit or strong. It was more like she was light because she was not eating food, and she was not sleeping enough at night. The kind of light that comes from skipping meals and not getting rest, that is what she was. The little girl held on to her mother's hand as Mark carried her out into the rain. The rain was hitting Mark in the face. Mark was not worried about his coat getting all wet. He was not worried about what might happen to him. The only thing Mark was thinking about was the girl. The little girl kept saying over, "Stay with me, Mom. Please." Mark could hear the girl saying this, and it was all that mattered to him. The little girl was scared. She just wanted her mom to stay with her. Mark and the people with him got to the car. Mark opened the door of the car. He carefully put Ariana across the seat of the car. Mark got the emergency blanket that he kept in the trunk of the car. His security team always told him to have this emergency blanket in the trunk of the car. Mark wrapped the emergency blanket tightly around Ariana. The girl got into the back, curled up against her mother. She held her mother's hand really tight, like it was the thing that could keep her safe. The girl was holding her mother's hand like it was a lifeline. Mark got into the driver's seat. His hands were shaking a little as he started the car. He looked at the girl in the mirror. Mark was really nervous. He did not know what the girl was thinking. Mark started driving. He kept looking at the girl through the mirror. The girl was just sitting there not saying a word, and Mark was getting more and more anxious. What is your name? His voice was steady. His heart was racing fast at the same time. The woman said Maya quietly. Mark told Maya that he was going to get Maya and the other person help. Mark then asked Maya what had happened to Maya. Maya took a breath and said, "My mom did not eat anything today." Her voice started to shake. "My mom works a lot in an office. Then she works some more at a restaurant. She told me we have to pay the rent soon. My mom said we should walk through the alley, because it is away. Then my mom fell down." Mark's hands got a hold on the steering wheel. Ariana Black. This is the woman who stood up to him in front of everyone. He had thought of Ariana Black as someone who was being too dramatic. She had not been talking about ideas that are not really happening. She was talking about things that are real. And that is what she meant by the things she said about the theory of something, the theory itself. She had been speaking from her life. The woman was talking about the things that happened to her. She was sharing her experiences and the things she learned from her own life. A siren was loud in the distance. Mark turned on the hazard lights, pulled over to the side of the road. He waved at the ambulance that was coming towards them the moment the ambulance came into view. Mark wanted to make sure the ambulance saw him, so he kept waving at the ambulance. The paramedics rushed out fast. They knew what they were doing. Mark helped the paramedics get Ariana onto the stretcher. The paramedics were moving with precision because they had done this many times before. Mark and the paramedics worked together to get Ariana on the stretcher. Maya wanted to go with them. One of the paramedics got down on his knees and talked to her in a gentle voice. He told Maya to go to Mark. The paramedic said, "Sweetheart, ride with Mark. We will take care of your mom." Maya had to go to Mark and ride with him. The paramedics were going to take care of Maya's mom. Maya stopped for a moment. Then she nodded. Her eyes never left her mother. Maya kept looking at her mother. Mark drove behind the ambulance. The rain was coming down. It was trailing behind Mark and the ambulance, like a shadow. Mark could see the rain falling from the sky. It was following them. The ambulance was moving fast, and Mark was trying to keep up with it. The rain was making it hard for Mark to see the road. At the hospital, the fluorescent lights were really bright. They did not have any lightning. The air had a smell of disinfectant, and it felt like people were worried. The nurses were moving around quickly. Ariana was taken behind some curtains. Then she was taken into a room. The hospital room was where Ariana was now. The nurses were still moving quickly around Ariana. Mark stayed at the place. Mark did not leave. He was still there, with Mark being very calm. Mark was not going anywhere. He did not know why he stayed. Except that leaving felt impossible. After what he had seen with his eyes. The things that the person had seen, the things that he had seen. Ariana woke up at last. She opened her eyes slowly. Was really confused. Then she looked at Mark. It did not take her long to figure out who he was. Mark was there, in front of her. Ariana looked at Mark. Felt a lot better when she saw him. She said to him in a voice, "You are Mark Hale." He nodded his head one time. "Yes," he said. Her eyebrows came together. "Why did you come here?" Before he could say anything, a nurse came into the room with a clipboard. she said. We need to know how you will pay for the emergency care you got. Ariana pushed herself up, and she felt a pain, so she made a face. Wait, I have insurance, Ariana said. I can pay for the things I need. Mark handed over his card calmly. He did this in a sort of way. Mark just gave the card to the person. That was it. Mark's card was now in someone's hands because Mark had handed it over. Ariana's eyes got really big. She said, No, I can handle Ariana's situation. Mark's voice was low. He sounded very sure of himself. He said, Tonight is not about being proud. Your daughter needed someone to help her. You needed help too. That is all that matters. The nurse stopped for a moment, then she quietly took the card, walked out. The nurse did not say anything. She just took the card from the person, left the room. The card was taken by the nurse. Ariana looked at him. You could tell she was not sure how to feel. She seemed to be thinking about whether she should be mad at him or thankful to him. You do not even know me, Ariana whispered to him. Mark looked at Maya. She was sitting on the bed now. Maya was wrapped in Mark's coat. She was still. Not as much as before. Maya was watching her mother. It was like Maya thought her mother might vanish at any moment. Mark's large coat was really helping Maya. Maya was still looking at her mother. Mark said this softly. I know what you did, he said. You kept going until you just could not do it anymore. I know your daughter really loves you. She loves you much, that she went out into a bad storm to get help for you, to find someone to save you, to make sure you are okay. Ariana's throat got all tight. She turned her head away, started blinking really fast. Ariana did not want to cry, so she tried to hold it in. For a moment, the room was quiet, except for the soft beeping of machines and the distant rumble of thunder outside. Then a nurse came back holding a tablet. She said to Mr. Hale, I am sorry. Our security cameras saw something in the lobby a while ago. Somebody put a video on media before we could do anything about it. The video is of the lobby. It was posted on social media. Mark frowned. He said, What clip? The nurse turned the tablet toward the man. She wanted to make sure he could see the tablet. The nurse was being very careful with the tablet. A short video was playing without any sound. It showed Mark kneeling down next to a girl in a hospital hallway. He was putting his nice coat around her shoulders. The little girl, Maya, looked up at Mark with eyes and a very thankful face. That was not dramatic. That was not staged. The internet did not need a lot of things to work. It was pretty simple. The internet was fine, with a little bit. Ariana's face went white. They are going to make this a story, she said in a quiet voice, and she sounded very upset. They always do this. They will say you saved Ariana, and the others like we are things. Like what happened to Ariana and the others matters because a rich man was involved with it. Mark's jaw got tight. It was not because of what she said to him. It was because what she said was true, and that bothered him. Mark did not like the truth that was in her words. He let his breath out slowly. If this thing turns into a mess, he said, I will not let it hurt the person I care about, you. Ariana looked at him with suspicion. She asked him, why? Because she did not understand what was going on with the man. Ariana wanted to know the reason behind his actions, so she said, why? To the man, Mark's voice became really gentle. He said, "This is because my son is watching us. Also, because your daughter should not think that being kind to someone always means you want something in return from them. That kindness has conditions." Maya looked at her mom and her dad. She was really confused. She took her mother's hand and gave it a squeeze. Maya loved her mother. She felt better when she held her hand. Her mom's hand felt warm and safe. Maya looked at her mother's hand that she was holding. Ariana swallowed hard. 27. This was the time she had really looked at him since she woke up. Her eyes went down past the fact that he was the CEO past his clothes, and she saw the real person behind his eyes. He looked tired, like a person. Not just some important guy with a big title. Outside the hospital window, the storm started to calm down. The rain became softer. It was falling at a slower pace. The hospital window was still getting wet from the rain. It was not coming down as hard as it was before. The sound of the rain on the hospital window was really nice. It was like music. To my ears, the storm was. The rain was falling in a gentler way. Inside that room, something different was happening. This was something that neither of them could just ignore. The room had something else going on. And somewhere out in the world, a video was spreading fast, attracting the kind of attention that could either destroy someone or expose truths powerful people spent their lives avoiding. The store Isel humiliation and the truth no one wanted to see. A week later, Ariana was out of the hospital, but out didn't mean safe. It meant she was upright again, back in the same city that never paused for sickness, back in the same life that didn't give discounts for survival. The bruises on her body faded faster than the bruises on her dignity. On Monday morning, she limped into her office job, an administrative role through a temp agency, where she was treated like she should be grateful for the privilege of being ignored. Her supervisor barely looked up when Ariana requested a schedule adjustment for follow-up medical visits. "We're all tired," the supervisor said, tapping her nails against a clipboard. "Try not to make this a habit." Ariana nodded politely, swallowing the anger she couldn't afford to show. At night, she worked a second job at a small diner, where the floors were always sticky and the customers acted like kindness was something they paid extra for. Maya sat in the booth by the kitchen with a coloring book, waiting for her mother's shift to end. She didn't complain. She never did. She'd learned too young that complaining didn't change anything, only made adults look at you like you were a problem. And all week, Ariana avoided the internet because she knew what it would do. But the internet didn't avoid her. The video of Mark covering Maya with his coat had exploded, shared by hospital staff, reposted by strangers, turned into headlines that made Ariana feel like she was being watched through glass. Some comments were kind. Others were cruel. Why was she in an alley? Probably a scam. Of course the CEO saved her. These poor people can't do anything. Ariana read one comment that made her hands shake. If she's a good mom, why is her kid begging strangers? She closed the app and stared at the wall, chest tight, fighting the familiar urge to blame herself for everything. 2 days later, she took Maya to a discount store to buy groceries and a small pack of socks. Maya's were damp more often than they were dry. Ariana counted coins in her palm as she pushed the cart, doing math the way poor people learn to do math. Not with numbers, but with consequences. Milk or bread. Socks or detergent. Rent first, always rent first. Maya stood beside her, clutching a worn doll, watching her mother's face, like she was trying to memorize every worry, so she could carry half of it. Ariana paused by the baby aisle. Formula. Diapers. Things that always cost too much. She wasn't buying baby supplies, but she couldn't stop staring at the prices. It was like looking at a different version of poverty, one with even less mercy. She exhaled and turned toward the checkout line, and froze. Mark Hale stood 3 aisles away, holding a basket. Liam was beside him, bouncing slightly, excited about something. Mark looked different without the boardroom lighting. No suit. No entourage. Just a simple sweater and a coat that wasn't trying to impress anyone. And still, people noticed him. 2 shoppers whispered, eyes widening. "That's him," one said. "The CEO from that video." Ariana's stomach nodded. Mark spotted her. His expression shifted, surprise, then something softer, careful. He walked toward her slowly, like approaching a skittish animal. "Ariana," he said quietly, stopping a respectful distance away. "How are you feeling?" Ariana lifted her chin. "Fine." Mark's gaze flicked to the coins in her hand. Ariana closed her fist quickly, as if hiding money could hide humiliation. Maya's eyes brightened when she recognized him. "Sir," she said, voice suddenly lively. "You're the one who carried my mom!" Mark gave a small smile. Maya." Liam peeked out from behind his father's leg, curious. "Is she your friend?" he asked. Ariana's throat tightened at the word. Friend. She wasn't used to being anyone's friend. She was used to being someone's inconvenience. Before she could respond, a woman in line behind Ariana scoffed loudly. "Well, look at that," the woman said, voice sharp enough to cut. "The CEO and the alley woman. I knew that story smelled fishy." Ariana's cheeks burned. Mark turned, calm but firm. "Excuse me?" The woman crossed her arms. "Don't excuse me. People are struggling everywhere. And now suddenly she's on camera with you. Convenient." Ariana's hands trembled. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to scream. She wanted to tell this woman what it felt like to watch your mother collapse because she hadn't eaten. What it felt like to be so tired you'd rather faint than keep going. But she said nothing. Because when you're poor, defending yourself often costs more than staying silent. Mark's voice remained steady. "You don't know her." The woman rolled her eyes. "I know enough." Always some sob story. Another shopper joined in, muttering, "People will do anything for attention." Ariana felt the familiar shame crawling up her spine, heavy and sticky. Then Mark did something unexpected. He stepped closer, not to Ariana, but to the checkout counter, where the store manager stood watching nervously. "Do you allow customers to harass others here?" Mark asked. The manager blinked, thrown off. "Sir, Mark didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His calm carried authority sharper than shouting. "This woman is trying to buy groceries," Mark said, gesturing toward Ariana, without making her feel like an exhibit. "Your staff is letting strangers humiliate her in public." The manager straightened immediately. "Ma'am," he said to the rude woman, Please lower your voice or leave the store. The woman huffed. Oh, please. Now we can't even talk. You can talk, the manager said. Firmer now. You just can't bully. The woman glared at Ariana, then stormed out. The store fell quiet. Ariana swallowed hard, stunned, not by the manager, but by Mark's refusal to let the moment pass. Mark turned back to Ariana, softer now. I'm sorry, he said. You shouldn't have to endure that. Ariana's eyes stung. I'm used to it. Mark's expression tightened. That's not something anyone should be used to. He glanced at the cart. Is there anything you? No. Ariana snapped. Too fast. Pride flared like a defense mechanism. I don't want your charity. Mark didn't flinch. I'm not offering charity, he said quietly. I'm offering respect. Ariana laughed bitterly. Respect doesn't pay rent. Mark nodded, as if accepting the truth. No, but policies do. Systems do. And I'm starting to realize how little I've been willing to see. Ariana stared at him. This was the man she'd criticized, the man she'd imagined as cold and untouchable. Yet here he was in a discount store, not posturing, not performing, just listening. The cashier scanned Ariana's items. The total appeared. Ariana opened her fist slowly, counting coins with trembling fingers. The line behind her shifted impatiently. The cashier sighed. Ma'am, do you have a card? We don't have all day. Ariana's face burned again. Mark stepped forward and placed a hand on the counter. Not aggressive, just present. Take your time, he said to Ariana. Loud enough for the cashier and the line to hear. No one here is more important than you. The cashier paused, embarrassed. The impatient murmurs faded. Ariana's throat tightened. She counted again, heart pounding. She was short, only a few dollars, but might as well have been 1,000. She swallowed. Ready to put the socks back? Before she could, Maya tugged her sleeve. Mom, it's okay, she whispered. We can share mine. That crushed Ariana more than anything else. Mark's gaze softened, then hardened into something resolved. He turned to the cashier. Separate transaction, he said, placing his card on the counter. Add the socks, and the milk, and the bread. Ariana jerked back. No. Mark met her eyes. Ariana, he said quietly. Your daughter shouldn't have to offer to go without socks to protect your pride. Ariana's breath caught. The cashier hurried, suddenly respectful. Ariana's hands clenched. You can't just. Mark lowered his voice. Then don't see it as me paying. See it as me repaying a debt. Ariana frowned. What debt? Mark didn't look away. The debt of not listening when you spoke. The debt of building comfort for people like me. Using exhaustion from people like you? Silence hit like a weight. Even the people in line seemed to hold their breath. Ariana's eyes shone. She hated that she was close to tears. She hated that she needed help. She hated that the world forced dignity to become a luxury item. But then she looked at Maya, small, quiet, brave, and she realized something even harder. Sometimes accepting kindness wasn't weakness. Sometimes it was survival. Ariana nodded once, barely. Fine, she whispered. But only this once. Mark didn't smile like a winner. He didn't act like a savior. He simply nodded back, respectful, like she had offered him something important. Because she had. As they walked out together into the wet, gray afternoon, cameras didn't appear. No reporters rushed them. Life kept moving like it always did. But something inside Mark had shifted. He wasn't just seeing Ariana anymore. He was seeing the system that cornered people like her into alleys, literally and metaphorically, then blamed them for being there. And for the first time, Ariana wondered if this man, this CEO, was about to become either her biggest problem, or the most unexpected ally she'd ever have. Instant karma in the boardroom and a kindness that changed everything. The next morning, Mark walked into Hale Industries with the same calm posture he always wore. But inside, he felt like a man carrying a secret earthquake. His executive team sat around a long glass table, coffee steaming, tablets glowing. They spoke about numbers the way people spoke about weather, casual, detached, unbothered by who got soaked. We'll delay contractor payouts another 2 weeks, a finance director said. Cash flow will look better for Q1. Another executive nodded. Temporary workers don't have leverage. They'll wait. Mark stared at the table, hearing Maya's voice. Mom didn't eat today. He heard Ariana's voice from the press conference. You're forcing people to live paycheck to paycheck. He heard the cashier's sigh. We don't have all day. Mark folded his hands. No, he said. The room paused. The finance director blinked.
No what?
Mark's voice stayed even. No delays. No excuses. A different executive shifted uncomfortably. Mark, with respect, that's not how. That is exactly how it's going to work. Mark cut in, still calm, which somehow made it more terrifying. We pay on time. We stop squeezing the most vulnerable people. Because it's convenient. A senior advisor leaned in. This is sudden. Is this about the viral video? PR is already stabilizing. Mark's eyes narrowed. Don't insult me. Silence. Mark continued. Voice low but forceful. I don't care about the video. I care about the reality it accidentally revealed. We've been operating as if exhaustion is someone else's problem. The finance director tried to laugh it off. Look, people choose their jobs. Mark's gaze sharpened. Did Maya's mother choose to collapse in an alley? He didn't wait for an answer. Or did she choose to work 2 jobs, because rent doesn't care how hard you try? The room stayed frozen. Then one executive, a man who always spoke like he owned the air, smirked. This is emotional decision-making. We run a business, not a charity. Mark leaned forward slightly. Good. Then let's talk business. Because a system that burns workers until they break isn't efficient. It's lazy. It's short-term, and it's a liability. The smirking executive's smile faltered. Mark slid a folder onto the table. New policy draft. Immediate contractor payments. Overtime protections. A hardship fund for employees in crisis, and a wage audit to ensure no one is being underpaid through loopholes. Murmurs erupted. That's expensive. Someone snapped. Mark nodded once. So are lawsuits. So is turnover. So is public outrage. But more than that, so is my conscience. The smirking executive scoffed again. You're letting one struggling woman influence corporate strategy. Mark's eyes flashed. One woman, he repeated, voice colder now. She's not one. She's thousands. She's the people you never look at when you're talking about cash flow. The executive leaned back, arms crossed. And what? You're going to put that activist on payroll next. Mark didn't answer immediately. He stood, Every chair seemed to hold its breath. "You're fired," Mark said, looking directly at the smirking executive. The room went dead silent. The man laughed once, disbelieving.
"Excuse me."
Mark's voice didn't change. "You heard me. Pack your things." The man's face reddened. "You can't just fire me for disagreeing." "I'm not firing you for disagreeing," Mark said. "I'm firing you because you've repeatedly advocated policies that harm people. You treat suffering like a strategy. And I will not build this company on cruelty." Instant karma landed like a hammer. The executive stared, stunned, then stood abruptly, chair scraping. He looked around for support, found none. In that moment, the powerful man realized something humiliating. He wasn't untouchable. He was replaceable. He stormed out, muttering threats that no longer held weight. Mark exhaled slowly. Then he looked at the remaining executives. "This company will make money," he said. "But not at the cost of people collapsing in alleys. If anyone here can't live with that, there's the door." No one moved. That afternoon, Mark did something else that shocked everyone. He called Ariana. When she answered, her voice was wary. "What is it, Mark?" Mark spoke carefully. "I'm not calling as a CEO. I'm calling as someone who owes you honesty." Ariana's breath hitched slightly. "Okay." Mark continued. "I've read your public statements. I also looked into your employment status. You're working through a temp agency under one of our contractors." Ariana stiffened. "So now you're going to intimidate me?" "No," Mark said quickly. "I'm going to fix it, if you want it." Ariana's voice turned sharp. "Fix it how?" Mark paused. "I want you on a new worker advocacy council, paid, independent. Real authority to investigate complaints and recommend changes." Ariana laughed once, incredulous. "You want the woman who publicly criticized you inside your company?" "Yes," Mark said. "Because if I only surround myself with people who agree with me, I'll go back to being blind." Ariana was silent. Mark added softly, "You can say no. I'll respect that." Ariana's voice lowered. "And what's the catch?" "There isn't one," Mark said. Then, after a beat, "But I do have a request." Ariana braced. "What?" Mark's voice softened. "Let me help you get stable. Not as a headline, not as a savior. Just as a person who cares that Maya doesn't have to beg strangers in storms ever again." Ariana's breath trembled. "You don't even know why I ended up in that alley." Mark's response was quiet and steady. "Then tell me. When you're ready. I'm listening." That weekend, Mark showed up at Ariana's apartment building. Not with cameras, not with gifts that screamed wealth. He brought groceries, a small toy for Maya, and a simple folder of resources. Childcare assistance, legal aid options, a contact at a nonprofit housing office. Ariana stared at the folder like it was something dangerous. "Why are you doing this?" she asked again. Because the world had taught her to mistrust kindness. Mark looked at her, honest. "Because my son asked me why some kids have to be brave in ways other kids don't." Ariana's eyes stung. Inside the apartment, the heating barely worked. The carpet was worn. The walls held the quiet exhaustion of survival. Maya ran up when she saw Mark and Liam. "Sir," she said, grinning. "You came?" Mark knelt slightly to her level. "I told you I would." Liam stepped forward shyly, holding his dinosaur plush. "Do you want to play?" he asked. Maya nodded eagerly, and for the first time in a long time, Ariana watched her daughter laugh, without holding fear in the same breath. Ariana turned away quickly, wiping her eyes. Mark didn't call attention to it. He simply stood beside her, close enough to offer support, far enough to respect her space. Later, when the kids were in the living room building a lopsided dinosaur castle out of cereal boxes, Ariana finally spoke. "I used to believe hard work was enough," she said, voice quiet. "But hard work doesn't protect you from getting tired, from getting sick, from getting treated like you're less." Mark nodded. "I was raised to believe success meant I deserved everything I had." Ariana looked at him. "And now?" Mark's gaze lowered. "Now I realize success also means responsibility. If I have power, and I ignore suffering, then I'm part of the problem." Ariana studied him for a long moment, as if searching for proof he meant it. Then she said something small, but huge. "Okay," she whispered. "I'll join your council." Mark's eyes lifted, relieved, but he didn't celebrate. He didn't claim victory. He simply nodded with respect. "Thank you." In the months that followed, changes rolled through Hale Industries like a tide. Contractors were paid on time. Workers reported fewer abuses. Complaints were investigated by Ariana's council, and for the first time, consequences actually happened. Not to the powerless, but to the people who had hidden behind titles. One supervisor was publicly disciplined for discriminatory remarks. Another was terminated for wage theft. And every time someone tried to dismiss these changes as too soft, Mark reminded them, "This isn't softness. This is strength with a conscience." One evening, Ariana stood outside the company building, after a long day, watching employees leave, tired but standing straighter, not afraid to speak. Mark walked up beside her. "You did this," he said quietly. Ariana shook her head. "No, you chose to listen." Mark glanced toward the street where Maya and Liam waited with a babysitter, laughing under a clear sky. No storm, no fear, no alley. Mark's voice softened. "I'm still learning." Ariana looked at him. "So am I." For a moment, the city noise faded into the background, and what remained was something simple and rare. Two exhausted adults, both carrying loss, both trying to build something better. One policy, one choice, one act of courage at a time. And somewhere, online, the old video still existed. But now it was only the beginning of the story. Because the real, instant karma wasn't just a CEO being praised. It was a cruel system being forced to change. Because a little girl refused to stop asking for help.